Hi, and you're listening to Listen Local with Adam Velo. I'm Adam Velo, and today I'm delighted to be joined by KAYTLYN Johnson today, a Palawa woman who now lives in Melbourne. She's had a career at a young age that I'd say that many dream of already, blending the line between pop, indie, and rock. Welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you
Thank
here.
thank you so much, Adam. That was a beautiful introduction. I appreciate it. It's lovely to
No
be here.
problem. So far this year, you've had two songs that have been uploaded to Triple J Unearthed, which I obviously have listened to quite a few times now. But the one I'm most interested in is the one that you've got more recently, which is being This Side of Heaven, a
That
whimsical
is true.
sound with incredible heavy self-reflection and growth. Now, my question is, where do you draw your energy for it and for what you describe as the most vulnerable you've been with your audience?
That is very true. I think this song has been with me for a couple of years now, so I think that the process of how I'm going to share it with the audience has really evolved. And that's why it's taken me so long to put the song out. But um, as you mentioned, it's kind of the most vulnerable that I've been with my songwriting in terms of what I've released so far. So
Mm.
Sunburn and Soon were a bit more like upbeat, fun pop, rock kind of songs, with a bit less like seriousness, if you know what I
Mm.
mean, like a bit more tongue in cheek with the lyrics and stuff. But this time I kind of wanted to strip all of that facade back and kind of tell a proper story about a time where I've been going through something that's a bit more personal to me.
Mm.
And yeah, I still tried to stick to that pop rock feel because I love exploring emotion through really big dynamic changes in my music with big builds and kind of pulling from my inspirations from like Short Stack, who's an Aussie
Mm.
artist that I've looked up to for a long time, and
Love
Olivia
short
Rodrigo.
stack. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going
Olivia
to see them
Rodrigo
tomorrow
as well.
night.
Oh wow, yeah, perfect timing for that. Yeah, obviously expanding on that, your music since you've released, in particular with Soon and others, you've had support from APRA, from Rolling Stone, and the songbird that is, of course, Kate Miller. Just how did this occur, and what's something you take away from the support you receive from it?
I'm feeling super lucky to be supported by such incredible Aussie artists in the scene at the moment. I connected with Kate Miller a few years back now when she offered a Tasmanian songwriting masterclass, and a couple of us artists came together in a room and shared our music, and she talked through our lyrics and gave us a few pointers on how to kind of build from where we're at in our careers. And from there, I kind of was gifted this drive to connect with more artists like Kate and move to Melbourne, obviously.
Yeah,
And yeah, and ever since then, I've kind of just wanted to network with people like yourself, Adam, people that love music in
okay.
Melbourne. And I think that each time that I meet someone else like yourself or like Kate Mahaki or other people in the industry and in media, it just kind of sparks that drive to keep building and keep telling stories. I think we're so lucky in Melbourne. We have such a rich scene, but also
For
such a
sure.
rich supporter base. Like there's so many people who love music here, and it just inspires me even more.
Yeah, it's the culture of the city. Like without live music, I don't even know how Melbourne would run, to be honest. Um,
Exactly.
but I appreciate you putting me in the same breath as Kate Malahide.
Absolutely.
But you also had the chance to open for another Australian icon, Thelma Plum. And as an
Yes.
Indigenous person yourself, do you feel like more seen when you get opportunities from other Indigenous leaders like Thelma and yeah, other Indigenous icons that you have worked with in recent times? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're so right. I think that having role models like Thelma, people who are proudly Indigenous artists and kind of standing up for our mob in these
Mm.
spaces, sometimes it's really hard to enter a white dominated space and feel like you're taking up enough space and you're representing people and doing all these things, but having those role models to kind of follow in their footsteps really makes it easier.
Yeah.
And opening for Thelma was one of my kind of first experiences performing live in Melbourne,
Mm.
and it kind of gave me a little bit of confidence and it made me really proud to be a First Nations artist in Melbourne because there's so many incredible First Nations artists. And
for
I've been
sure.
looking up to a few like Kanisha is doing amazingly, Jem Castadaly as well,
Mm.
and even yeah, I don't know. I just it gives me so much pride to be filled with so much support from these people, and also like being put on lineups with them as well is amazing.
For sure, yeah. I mean, it's obviously the oldest culture in the world, so to have stories being told from that culture, it's just so valuable for stories, yeah, in the Australian scene.
Absolutely, especially in hip hop as well. There's so
Mm.
much truth telling going on there, and some real staunch black women taking the space as they deserve to.
On that topic, what's one thing do you think that the industry on this point can do to encourage participation from, First Nations diversity and, people from rural communities that you're also connected to as well in this country?
I think that maybe diversifying where we get our music from is really
Mm,
important because it is really easy to get caught up in artists that are quite established in Australia, but also overseas, you know what I mean?
mm,
So I think I've been trying to give myself periods of time where I only listen to Australian artists, and I've found putting myself in that place to intentionally do that has been really helpful because I've been able to
mm,
find a lot of amazing gems from rural areas. I grew up in Tassie, so I know how hard it is to receive resources and get yourself into a studio and pay for that sort of thing. So I think that, yeah, just looking a little bit deeper and a little bit further than your usual pop playlist is really handy. And then in terms of actionable things for people that do have money, like I don't know, people maybe offering grants or venues and stuff like that. I think that oh, it's really hard, isn't it?
mm,
Everyone's doing a lot already, I think. I think that I've seen a big wave of people that care, like um, radio stations like Sin and the girls on the Hoist have been amazing at that. They've been
mm.
really amazing at looking um, beyond the already established artists. So oh, I don't know. It's a really hard conversation, but I'm glad that we're having the conversation. I think maybe that is the first step as well. Just looking out for each other and keeping that conversation about propping up our rural artists is really important. Yeah.
For sure. I saw a statistic the other day. It was like of the top, I think it was like 10,000 people, 8% of it is Australian to begin with, for the
Wow.
most Spotify streams in Australia. So yeah, if only 8% is in 10,000, then yeah, obviously that's even less for rural and First Nations in particular. Yeah, I'm a SIN member myself, so I'm massive on the hoist and all that. So yeah, hopefully we get more action. And yeah,
Absolutely. And donations. Pay
for
for your
sure.
sins, guys.
Exactly. Mentioned there that you start out in Tassie, having lived in both sides, in both Tassie and now the mainland. What do you feel like the major difference are between the two music scenes?
I think representation is a big one, and the saying of you can't be what you can't see really resonates with me growing up in Tassie. In high school, we didn't really have all that many resources in terms of getting into a studio. That was never really an option for me. So I
Mm,
had no way to record my music or create a platform to do so. And so just not having access to understanding how that process even works was a real detriment to me. And as a result, I feel 5 years behind the curve in Melbourne. Like my artistry and my brand building, I think you can tell from my social media, is probably 5 years behind other artists that are my age that grew up here.
mm,
Um, in terms of the music scene live in Tassie, there's like a handful of venues that you can play at. And although they are really supportive and wonderful when you get up on stage, it's really hard to establish yourself, especially up in the north and on the northwest coast. I found it really hard to kind of, like build an audience there because the audience is older as well, so they're also looking for a different dynamic, and there isn't that real alive feeling that you get from a
mm,
young audience in Melbourne. And so, as much as those things are sometimes not possible to change, I think the biggest thing that can change is representation in Tassie and making sure that there are spaces for young people to go and work on their music and record their music because there's
yeah.
kind of no other way to get it out there when your audiences are so small in Tassie. So I think the biggest thing is finding resources to record in Tassie.
outside of music, you're also involved with a company called Big Heart, who bring artists into communities to collaborate and create authentic stories which illuminate local injustice. In your music workshop, are the things you've taken from this experience and being involved with it, and also not only how you see yourself or and how you put into your own work as well.
Absolutely. There was a time growing up in high school where Big Heart came in and worked with a lot of the young women and girls at my high school just to kind of not necessarily improve their potential or their goals or anything, because I think that young people already had those drives and women already
Mm.
had those drives back in Tassie, but it was giving them a platform to speak about what was going wrong in the community and giving them a platform to kind of look to that next step and see what else is out there. Because again, with that representation, if you can't see what you want to be, then it becomes really hard to kind of move beyond that bubble of growing up in a rural area. And I
Absolutely.
think a lot of those young people in Tassie, as you said before, are destined for very big things that go beyond the Bass Strait. And so Big Heart's role was kind of just come in and flesh out those ideas a bit more and give a step by step plan to young people to kind of figure that out. So we got a lot of opportunities to speak at really important events and bring the community together to work against a lot of hidden issues in the community. A
Mm.
big one is domestic violence, and so we
Mm.
wanted to raise a lot of money to support women and children in community shelters. And so there were kind of two sides to it, if you know what I mean. Like there was empowering young people, but then also finding these hidden issues. And I'm really grateful for that from Big Heart. I think it was really needed in our community. And they've done a bit of work across the country with other rural areas and doing the same thing, uncovering hidden issues. And I think that I've been able to take a lot away from that, how I advocate for things through my music, and how I kind of recognize hidden issues and in the community and looking towards solutions.
Which is super important. Just big ups to all organisations across Australia that represent spaces like that. It's always massively needed. Yeah. And you said obviously with your rural high school, you didn't have like a school band or a music curriculum. So what was the ways that you found around that?
Yeah, so I found it really difficult going from primary school, which had quite a strong, um, very strong music teacher. She was a beautiful
Mm.
lady who empowered us all to be creative in the music space. And I spent all of primary school performing and learning. But I got to high school and it all kind of fell apart. Like one of our teachers, we had a big turnover of music teachers, and one of them would just sit at his desk and play his own music and send us off into the rooms to figure it out for ourselves. And
Mm.
every instrument was broken. Like there was, there
Yeah.
was nothing really going for us. But I had a couple of teachers in other faculties that were really helpful and loved music, and my maths teacher in particular would play piano with us at lunchtime and get little groups together, and we'd perform at assemblies, singing harmonies and creating our own kind of thing. So
Yeah.
although we didn't have that support from a music department per se, we had other people around us who could share that love with us. And so from there, I just kept songwriting, which I had kind of started to do in late primary school on guitar at home. And that's where I kind of drove my music making from, was kind of writing my own stories and getting the guitar out. And I was able to kind of merge that experience with my school experience and finding some other instrumentalists to perform my songs live, which was the most incredible feeling after never having done that before. Big Heart did facilitate that as well. Like they had a few musicians that worked alongside their organization. So that's how my journey kind of started. And I'm very grateful for those teachers in primary school and high school that were actually passionate and empowering enough to work with us to keep that dream alive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's so important to have teachers that are able to, yeah, just share the passions and bring the passion out in the students. And
absolutely.
and growing up, the one album that you reference that was released was Fearless by a certain Miss Swift. Uh, now that the old recordings all back, as we had in the recent news, what are your thoughts on, the topic of artist ownership of their music?
It's a big conversation, isn't it? And I think Taylor Swift is such an amazing um mother kind of figure in this industry. Like I swear every young songwriter was raised by that album Fearless.
Of
And
course.
to think that that album that has so much power as a songwriting kind of, god, to think that that wasn't even owned by the person themselves who wrote it was really saddening. But it's had insane ramifications. Like, as you would know, the whole community of songwriters have come together and like binded themselves together behind Taylor in this fight. And so not only has the understanding of that process and the learning been really valuable for other artists that might go through what Taylor did, I think it also just proved the importance of sharing stories and music, and how it can influence another generation. And so I am a big believer that musicians deserve to own their art and their
Yeah.
music. And I understand that in this kind of climate, it's really hard to do that because, being an independent artist is really hard. Like it costs so much money to market yourself and record yourself and do all the things. And so it's a trade-off between whether that's a value of yours and whether you keep striving to be independent or whether you do trust a label with your own work. I guess there's no right answer depending on what your values are, but for me, I'm really enjoying being independent and I'd like to keep that kind of a priority for me, depending on whether I can continue to fund my own recording journeys. But yeah, I'm really proud of the way the community's gotten behind Taylor, and I hope we do that with other artists going forward.
No, it's a very important conversation to have, and so pleased to have, the mixture of the big artists speaking out and obviously your independent artists also pushing forward as well. The question
Mm.
is though, we've heard Taylor's version. Have we heard KAYTLYN's version? Any vault tracks?
True. Oh my gosh. That would be so fun. That is marketing genius as well. Like, I would do anything for those rep vault tracks. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I need to come up with some kind of marketing genius like the vault tracks.
Yeah.
Any ideas, let me know.
Yeah. No, yeah. Well, what would your personal dream collaboration would be? But let's say we're going to see Caitlin Johnson in concert. Who would we see up on stage,
Um, so I was really jealous of every single Eras Tour opener, and I
Yeah.
think that if I could have anyone, it would obviously be Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
But if we think a little bit more like realistic, an Australian artist I would love to collab with. Oh my God, this is so hard. I should have this like ready, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Come on.
To be fair,
Uh,
I've asked this question to so many people and they never have the exact answer straight away. So I think it's just a whole thing.
Actually ridiculous. Maybe I will say short stack because
Yeah.
I was so tempted to just cold email them and be like, "Can I open for you at the
Yeah.
forum?" But I don't think I don't think they would have agreed on that. But one day, maybe I will say short stack. That would be
Yeah.
crazy fun. Yeah,
I mean, the quote is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So, like, I don't know
exactly.
if we
Yeah,
if this interview gets any traction,
that's right. And like,
Yeah,
surely they'll tour again.
surely,
Surely.
surely.
Anyway, see.
But yeah, you're an active participant on the Triple J on Earth website, also reviewing other artists' work. Um, so the question that yeah, I do unashamedly have taken from Charlie in the Rain, who's another great interviewer. Check that out. What's your local listens right now? One from Melbourne, of course, and one from across Australia.
Okay, okay, let's go. So across Australia, Daffy. If you're
Yep.
not on Daffy, everyone get on Daffy because although she hasn't released this year, her stuff has been so heavily overlooked in Australia, and I am so obsessed. Like I listen to her discography over and over again, and it doesn't get old. I think she produces it all herself as well, which is insane. Like when you hear those guitar layers and stuff, you'll be just blown away. So that's my Australian listen would be Dassy. And then
Yep.
In Melbourne, I'm going to say Kanisha.
Okay,
Kanisha
yeah,
is a true away woman from Tasmania, is where her mob is from. And
yeah,
she's making waves in the scene as well. For a long time now, she's been performing in Melbourne, so you might have seen her before. But
yeah.
um, I think that her voice really lends itself so well to soul music. And I'm a little bit envious because I can't sing soul that well. Like, I don't have that rich sound that she does. So I think that would be my Melbourne pick.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. It's incredible, especially the soul scene at the moment. Like, I feel like a lot of people just kind of sleep on it because you know, it's not played on air often. But yeah, some of their voice is just incredible. And yes, which brings me to final question. And let's say people people would obviously want to see your work at this point. Like if you've got this deep in the interview, you clearly invest in this. Where would you see your music and yeah, connect with you both? I mean, you could either be listening or with trying to book you or otherwise, yeah.
Ooh, okay. I think that my website could be a good place to start for bookings.
Yep.
I'm really proud of my website as well. I got a bit of help making it. Shout out to Adam Wooding from Naramili. Um, it's yeah, I don't know. It's just a really beautiful collection of all the photos that Ashani Buff took for me for each release, and so that would be the best place to start. That would link you to my Spotify, Apple Music, Instagram, TikTok, all the fun things. Um, yeah, I reckon that's a good place to start, but I know the best place to support artists is obviously local radio to tune in and also Bandcamp. I know
Yeah.
artists get a lot more money from Bandcamp, so big ups to them rather than Spotify. But yeah, all those places you can find me. And I'm playing some shows in very soon. I haven't announced them because I'm waiting for the venues to finalize some stuff. But
Yep.
if you keep an eye on my Instagram, I will announce them very soon.
Well, I'll certainly be doing so. So
Oh,
thank you so much for the chat today. It's been incredible as always. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing.
thank you so
And
much,
then
Adam, and you as well, because you're doing great things for our community, and we're all very grateful for you.
thank you.